Hello, Dr. Sreekumar. Thank you so much for coming to our program. It's been an honor. So, welcome. You have been an agriculture scientist for over 3 decades. Could you briefly explain what motivated you to come into agricultural science?
I am hailing from a farm family. My father was a farmer, so naturally, from the very beginning, I was motivated to study agriculture.
Okay, so apart from being an agricultural scientist, you are an author,
Yes.
a public speaker, and also a science communicator, not just for the agricultural community, but also to the general public, especially to educate about integrated farming or the modern way or the scientific farming. Were you always into scientific farming?
No. During my studies, I was an environmental extremist. I got the book One Star Revolution written by Masanobu Fukuoka, Japan. Way back in 1984, I studied it and then I argued with my professors that this is the right way of cultivation. What you are teaching us is wrong. Because at that time I thought that was all true. But when I read it again and again, I found there is a negation of science. Science has brought us this much of knowledge and power, and his book says there is a negation of science. I could identify it later. And then when I became agriculture officer, I had to interact with the farmers. I go to different paddy fields. I discuss with the issues of pest and diseases and nutrient issues, soil problems. Then I have answers not from organic way, but from the scientific way. If there is a pest, I can, when it is slightly serious, then only they will come to us. Before that, they won't come to us. So when it is a serious issue, naturally we have to recommend pesticides. So when the pesticides are applied in right quantity, in right way, the issue will be immediately solved without much environmental implications. And also, if the paddy is not very productive, the productivity is very low, then we have to tell that you go for the soil testing, then soil test based recommendation is given and the paddy became very remunerative. The production was higher and the farmer was happy. So that way I found that it's only the modern science, the science of farming could solve the issue. That gave me an eye opener that these organic and blah blah these things cannot solve the problems for the farmers. That is not practical, that is not pragmatic. That way I found it myself in a very hard way. Actually farmers taught me all these things to a great extent.
So, can you briefly explain what is the scientific agriculture that you are advocating for? Just to understand, because there is a lot of miscommunication in the general public about modern farming. Just to understand, what is modern farming?
Yes. Plants produce leaves, fruits and other things, and plants require nutrition, and the nutrition is scientifically elaborated clearly. This much of nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, calcium, magnesium, sulfur and micronutrients are needed for production of these things, and this much quantity. The genetic potential of say a rice variety is 6,000 kilograms per hectare, and based on soil test value the soil can provide only this much. The rest you have to apply by way of chemical fertilizers as well as organic manures, and if you are applying this much and if you are protecting the plants, the yield will be this much. Correct, exactly. And that is what hydroponics teaches. Hydroponics is cultivating the plants. In aeroponics is also there, cultivating in either water or with a spray of water, and that will be producing tomatoes, big tomatoes, and the taste is exactly as that of a organically cultivated or a scientifically cultivated tomato. The antioxidants and other nutrients in that tomato is exactly the same. So we know the science of farming is based on this one. And another thing is that when you harvest, say from a hectare of land, we are harvesting 6 tons of grains and 6 tons of straw. 12 tons are removed from the field. Then you have to replenish it by way of organic manures as well as chemical fertilizers. So basically what we say is that it should be integrated nutrient management, INM, integrated nutrient management, having organic manures, chemical fertilizers and oil cakes and many other things, and the soil should be neutral. So if it is an alkaline soil, we have to apply lime, and if it is gypsum, and if it is an acidic soil, we have to apply dolomite or lime. So in a neutral soil, nutrient availability will be maximum, and if you are applying these chemicals, there will be maximum yield, and if pests and diseases come, we can manage with different types of pesticides. So INM, integrated nutrient management, integrated pest management, integrated disease management, that is what we recommend in a scientific farming.
So basically, unlike what prevails in the general public, it's not basically spraying of pesticides and applying all the chemical in quotes. It's not what scientific farming is. It's basically giving what is required for the crops. Let it be biomanures or fertilizers or different methods of pest management, and also the storage of those yields or the produces for the consumption of the consumption of general public. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about that general idea about pest management. And you just briefly explained about the false narrative of the endosulfine. And institutions like Greenpeace, PAN, which general public look up to, has used it as sensationalism across the world, not just
fear mongering, I would say. Fear mongering.
Yes, exactly. Fear mongering, not just at a national level but international level. I guess in countries like Brazil and all, they banned endosulfine using our example. Right? Why do you think they used it, and why didn't they go for that basic data analysis that the health issues are not skewed in that local community where the endosulfine was used? That was the basic data analysis that anybody can do. Why did giant institutions like Greenpeace or PAN didn't go for that?
That is their interest. They want these things protected, because then only their narrative will be true for the general public. So they don't want to reveal it to the public. And I don't know other things about it, but basically PAN, Pesticide Action Network, they'll be spreading lot of false narrative about pesticides all over the world. Endosulfine is a clear-cut case about it, and there are other cases also. But you have fought a lot to bring the false narrative into picture in the public. But let me ask you this question: if you get a chance to lift the ban on endosulfine, would you lift the ban on endosulfine? No.
Why? Why would you not lift the ban?
See, I was a person who wrote in Shastragati that endosulfan should be banned in India, because though endosulfan was used for 60 long years in USA and Europe, and from 1980s onwards in India, later studies have shown that endosulfan residues, though it is at very, very low level, residues are found in polar regions. Because if it is sprayed in tropics or subtropics or temperate regions, alpha endosulfan is volatile, and that will go as a vapor, enter into the outer atmosphere, that will condense somewhere during night hours, and again in the next morning that will volatilize and then it go into the next area. It's a grasshopper effect, we say. And finally at the polar region, the temperature is very low and finally that will condense. That is why DDT is seen in polar regions. So, and since endosulfan is found in polar regions, it shows that it has got a grasshopper effect. Long range transport is there, and because of that we can ban endosulfan. Endosulfan is a persistent organic poison in the temperate regions of the world. But if we continue its use in tropical regions, even then it will go into polar regions. So science, in the precautionary way, science says that we have to limit the application of such chemicals. So that way, this because science is continuously progressing. So newer techniques with GCMS, all these shows that even traces 1 parts per billion, that shows 1 gram in 100 tons, 1 gram can be detected nowadays. Even in trillions it can be detected. So new detection technology has shown that endosulfan is present in such places, so endosulfan may be banned. I would not prefer a lifting of the ban. Let ban be there, because newer chemicals are available. Older chemicals will be. That is true in healthcare, that is true everywhere. We will be using LED, we won't be using filamentous bulb nowadays. It's quite natural like that.
Yeah, that's the good thing about science. We always move to the better truth. But what needs to be highlighted here is that the fight against endosulfan false narrative is that the endosulfan didn't create those health issues here. That is the narrative, not lifting the ban.
No, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, apart from endosulfan and other pesticides, people who actually support organic farming, what they say is that pesticides do have a severe effect on the biodiversity and the environment. How true is that? Do they have a severe effect wherein the bees and the pollinators die? All those things, do they really happen?
To some extent it can happen, because pesticides are poisons, and that will be marketed only after a lot of studies. And then when it is applied, usually any pesticide or any poison will be having an effect based on the body weight. If the body weight is very high, the effect will be very less, because the chemical entering into the body will be diluted in body fluids, and finally that will be excreted out. If the organism is very small, that will be having an impact, quite natural. So we are applying it on pests. The pest body weight may be 6 milligrams or 5 milligrams, and the natural enemies and the bees and other pollinators are also having only that much body weight. So naturally there will be some effect in the applied areas, but that will be, the pesticide will be degraded within 5 or 6 or 10 days, and then naturally there will be ingression from other areas and the effect will be neutralized. So that is there. That is why we want to reduce pesticide application. That is what science, the farming science says, we want to reduce all sort of pesticide application. That is why we say integrated pest management, integration of different measures, mechanical, physical, biorational, pheromones, natural enemies, parasitoids, predators, all these have to be included when we go for pest management. So that way, it is not the pesticide alone we recommend, but that is the feeling of the notion of the general public, that is a pesticide alone we are recommending. It's not like that. It's a science that has developed different types of biological pest management methods, parasitoids, predators. We have only developed it. Though the organic people say that they apply it, it is developed by the scientific world. Okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned something about the relationship between the dosage and the weight of the organism. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, there is a general feeling that all chemicals are biocides or pesticides are biocides killing all sort of organisms. It is not true. Pesticides are killing different types of organisms. Say there are algicides, there are fungicides, there are bactericides, there are insecticides. So different classes of chemicals are there. DDT you must be knowing. All the people will be knowing about DDT. DDT is an insecticide. DDT has got 6 chlorine atoms in it. 6 chlorine atoms. So it is got an insecticidal effect. But on vertebrates and human beings, the toxicity of DDT is very, very less. So previously it used to be taken for indoor spraying. In our bedrooms, DDT were sprayed previously in all the bedrooms of the country to kill mosquitoes. But when one chlorine atom is taken and OH is added, immediately there is no insecticidal effect. Now that chemical is called dicofol and that can kill only mites. Only mandari we say, no? Mites. Mites will only be killed. There is no insecticidal property. So based on the molecule, it has got different name. Sulfur will be killing only mites. It cannot kill insects. So basically, it is a dosage that matters, and that was cleared by Paracelsus way back in 1543. Paracelsus.
That's centuries back.
Centuries back he told it. We also say Adhigamaya Amridam Visham, we also say that. But he told it in 1543, and this is based on the body weight of the organism, the effect will be present.
So I have a question to raise as a follow-up question to that. One of the allegations that people from Kerala have regarding the endosulfan is that there were a lot of fishes dying in the local water bodies.
Ah, right.
Was that really true because of endosulfan?
Yes.
Did that happen?
That did happen.
So that means there might have been a higher dosage application, because if the dosage was correct and the content, the endosulfine washed off into a water body, again there should be a dilution. And after that, if fish is dying, whose body weight is higher than a small insect, that means there is some disproportion in that, right?
Very good question, Preethi. For this, I would say another thing, that fishes, especially freshwater fishes, are not exposed to the toxins produced by the plant world, plant kingdom, because fishes are not eating on plants. So fishes don't have a group of enzymes called mixed function oxidases group number 2. That contains thousands of enzymes. So that group of enzymes are lacking in fishes. So different types of poisons will be deadly poisonous on fishes. Because in the evolutionary period, millions of years of evolution, fishes were not exposed to these type of poisons produced by the plants, and naturally they don't require it. So they don't have that enzyme. So fishes are quite prone to such type of insecticides. I would say another example, since you asked this question.
Sure.
We are using mosquito mat and also liquids contain maxillotrin, permethrin, allothrin, etc., etc. You just read that label, and if you put that pesticide in water, immediately all the fishes will be killed in drops only. But you are keeping it in your bedroom for the entire night and for over the years. For many years we are using it. But not it is poison to us, but in very small quantity, that is very toxic to fishes.
Right. So it's something that on an evolutionary level fishes are not exposed to. That's wherein the difference is.
We are living in an ocean of poison. We are all living in an ocean of poison produced by the plants, produced by microorganisms, etc., etc. And we are taking different types of vegetables. All these vegetables have their own poison to kill other insects. So we are living in an ocean of poison, and people feel that, especially writers feel that our life is very flimsy. A poison is going nearby and you are killed. It's not like that. The life is very, very strong. It has evolved from 390 crores of years ago. Life is evolved. 390 crores of years means how much of different periods it has undergone, and it has diversified. The life has diversified over the years into millions and millions of living organisms. No, the life is not flimsy, it's very strong. Yes.
So another question that I have is, pesticides and preservatives, it's not just applied when the crop is grown in the farm. It is also applied during the transportation and storage also, and it's applied by the middlemen or the traders, and the blame goes to the farmers even at that time also. We can say that most of the farmers do get the right training how to use the preservatives in a responsible manner. But do we have such kind of trainings or any programs to educate these traders or middlemen to use them responsibly?
No, yeah, that is correct. Most of the red chilies and other spices, cardamom has got a lot of pesticide residues, and also red chilies. In the case of red chilies, we say vatal mulaga, red chilies. So that chilies have got lot of pests. So farmers apply different kinds of pesticides in Andhra Pradesh, where it is highly cultivated, largely. And but when farmers apply it, naturally it's in the hot sun, and that will be degraded. But after collecting these red chilies by the middlemen, and they dry it in big yards, drying yards, and then they apply Sudan red over it. Sudan red is a coloring agent. They spray it over it, and so that the chilies will be very red in color, and that will have got a good market value, and that will be sold, and that will be powdered and coming as pickles and curry powders, and that is coming back to us.
Right.
That is not a right practice. So, but that practice is done by these middlemen. And likewise, maybe when apples are harvested, apple will be dipped in certain fungicides to prevent fungal attack. Then it will be waxed, and it will be going to the market. So sometimes the dilution may not be correct. So such areas we require more interventions. That is true. And even at the farmers level, we always require more interventions so that unscientific applications can be corrected.
Right. So I think maybe we can take few questions from the audience, if you have any.
For many years I have seen you also do so many videos. And have you seen any positive impact on your work?
Yes. Now many people in the ladder of administration, they have accepted my argument because it's based on facts and figures. I have given my paper to many people, say government health secretary of the government, and the persons in the social justice department as well as health department. They accepted it. But since the government stand is like this, they are all helpless. And Supreme Court blatantly ordered 5 lakh rupees to everybody, because the government of Kerala did not produce sufficient facts and figures before the Supreme Court. They didn't produce it. Though I am a government servant, I am ready to say that. I am not fearing about it. So, but even then, general public to some extent admit that such a thing didn't happen. So to some extent I am satisfied, only to some extent only.
Hello, sir. First of all, thanks a lot for this wonderful discussion and explaining this very clearly. One question I have is a general question. What is the mechanism we have to ensure that the pesticide content is in limit on the vegetables or whatever we have, we get in the market, and that those are things are in limit? What mechanism does the government have?
Yes, it's a concern by all, the general public, that whatever we eat, whether it is safe or not, whether it will be having an repercussion on our health, quite natural. So there is a mechanism by the government of India whereby vegetables, fruits and all other agricultural produce as well as drinking water will be taken from the market, purchased from the market, and that will be examined in 33 laboratories in the country. It's an All India Network project, AINP, on pesticide residues, All India Network project on pesticide residues. So their report is available. 10 years concise report is available, which if you look into, it will say that the samples containing pesticides above maximum residue limit, MRL, is only less than 3%. Less than 3% only. That means 97% of the vegetables and fruits and other agricultural produce are free from pesticides. Not completely free, it's contaminated, but level of contamination is very safe. It's very, very low. So, and okay, you are taking this 3% of contaminated vegetables. Then that MRL value means maximum residue limit. It is 1/100th of the value of the chemical which is even reproductively safer to the rat test organism. So if 100 times that value is given to a rat for generations together, that will not cause any harm to that rat generations. That is fixed as MRL value. Means 1/100th of it. Means it cannot cause any sort of health issue to any human being. We are how many times more heavier than a rat? So it won't cause, but even then MRL value is fixed for having a good cultivation practice. So that pesticide application is very, very safe and below those levels. And secondly, for international trade, because when you have trade, there should be standards. So this standard is fixed. But MRL value is used as a trade barrier by the European Union. And even America, USA was complaining about it. That the MRL value is fixed by European Union for 600 types of pesticides is 0.01 ppb. Means it's 1 gram in 100 million. 1 gram in 100 million. It definitely cannot cause any harm. But even then that is fixed so that your vegetables and fruits will not reach them. They will have their own vegetables. So that is to prevent export. So that is it's a trade barrier. Okay. So and then if you have vegetables which is contaminated, then wash it and then cook it. By cooking, 90% of the residues will be degrading again. During 1990s and 2000s, 20 years back, the residue contamination was higher than this. And even during that period, a vegetable lunch was taken from a hotel. Such vegetable packets were taken, lunch packet was taken. Lunch were examined. Vegetarian lunch and non-vegetarian lunch were examined for pesticide residue, and it was found that it is free of residues. Because when you cook it, all these residues will be degraded. So there is no worry about it. take lot of vegetables and fruits so that will prevent cancer. It's proven fact that consuming large quantity of vegetables and fruits of different types will be preventing cancer. Lot of studies are there. So don't fear about consumption of fruits and vegetables. Take lot of it. Usually we will be fearing about purchasing fruits and vegetables and thinking that will prevent cancer. But instead, what actually should be done is take lot of vegetables and fruit, and that will prevent cancer. That should be the way. I think it's clear, no? Okay.
All right. So we'll continue our conversation. So we'll move on to the next big elephant in the conversation. So one of the main ways to increase the yield in our farm is to provide a balanced nutrition to our crops. And one way is to, that is by adding fertilizers. And the biggest debate around here is organic fertilizers and the regular fertilizers. What exactly is the difference between the organic fertilizers and the regular fertilizers?
See, both have its own merits as well as demerits. Organic manures, cow dung and compost, all these things are waste from plants or animals, and that will be having the plant nutrients in very low concentration. Say nitrogen will be 0.5 to 1% only, phosphorus will be 0.2%, potash will be around 0.8% only, and lot of bulk will be there. Because cellulose, silicon, all these in bulk will be there, and moisture content will be very high. It's very difficult to transport large quantity of organic manure. Transporting is very costly, bulky, and when you apply it, the nutrient release which is able to support the plant is very much limited. But that will be enhancing the soil properties like water holding capacity, nutrient holding capacity. Nutrient holding capacity is called cation exchange capacity, because soil clay particles will have negative charges, and most of the chemical fertilizers we add will have positive charges. So this will hold on the soil, so it won't be leached immediately.
Right.
So those properties can be enhanced by application of this organic manure, but its plant supporting nutrient release will be very less. Whereas chemical fertilizers will be water soluble most of the cases, and that if you apply will be available to the plants immediately during different growth stages of the plant. Say for example a rice crop, its age will be only 4 to 5 months. So when it is just 2 weeks before flowering, this should have large quantity of chemical fertilizers available in the root zone, so that good number of panicles emerge out and lot of grains are there, and grains will be filled by photosynthesis, and grain weight is sufficient so that will produce 6,000 kilograms. So immediately it can supply nutrients. That is advantage. But the disadvantage is that it may leach out. And if it is slightly higher, the plant will be more succulent, especially nitrogenous fertilizers. That will make the plant very succulent. And if the plant is very succulent, the attack of pests and diseases will be higher. So that is a disadvantage. But the advantage is that according to the soil test values, you can give the nutrients in exact quantity and exact proportion and at timely intervals. Split doses, timely intervals, so that the plant will have all the nutrients in right condition and the yield will be maximum. That is advantage. But this nitrogen will be leaching to groundwater. There is a chance. In places like Rajasthan as well as Punjab, we found that nitrogen leaching even to groundwater because excessive nitrogen is added. So what will happen? If nitrogen is present in groundwater in higher quantities for years together, that will cause a disease condition called methemoglobinemia or blue baby syndrome. Blue baby syndrome. Did you hear about it? Blue baby?
Yes.
That will be there. That is an issue.
That's quite interesting and dangerous at the same time, I guess.
But we have solution for that. We have methods to release urea very slowly. Neem coated urea is there. That will release nitrogen very slowly only. So that won't leach out to the environment. Immediately plants will absorb it, and that will be safer. And there are different other methods also that will reduce the leaching out of the nutrients. But even in organic farming, nutrients may leach, and nutrient leaching may be there even from the forest.
Right, definitely.
So nutrient leaching is quite natural, but in scientific cultivation, we can reduce it to a great extent. There are techniques.
So, to the initial question, to the initial point that the organic fertilizers are basically manures that are plant and animal waste, and basically the definition is that will get disintegrated and will give some nutrients to the crops, whereas the regular modern day fertilizers are targeted fertilizers which we'll have to quantify and give based on the needs of the plants.
Yes.
Right. So riddle me this. As per our government standards to certify organic farming, why do they allow substances like potassium sulfate, NPK or calcium carbonate in organic farming? That's not organic manure. That's typically fertilizers or chemicals, the so-called chemical substances that cannot be categorized as organic substances.
That's a right question, Preethi. Many people didn't know that even in organic farming, many chemicals are permitted, like calcium carbonate, calcium chloride, ethanol, and many other, this potassium sulfate. The beauty is that potassium sulfate is permitted because it's naturally available in Europe, and Europe has made the standards, and where potassium sulfate is available naturally, and it is permitted. In different other parts of the world, potassium chloride is available naturally, potassium chloride, but that is not permitted in our area. In our standard organic farming, potassium chloride is not permitted, but potassium sulfate is permitted. So urea is not permitted in organic farming, but urine is permitted. Both contain urea only. Chemically, NH2CO, NH2, it is urea only. But urine is permitted, urea is not permitted. And another thing is that pyrethrins and nicotine, these are all plant products. That is permitted in organic farming. But neonicotinoids, which are a group of insecticides which are having lesser toxicity than nicotine, neonicotinoid group is not permitted. Pyrethroids, synthetically produced chemicals, but the basic structure is that of a plant origin chemical, pyrethroid. But that is not permitted.
Aren't nicotine carcinogens?
Nicotine is carcinogenic.
That will cause cancer?
That will cause cancer.
And
proven.
That means organic farming produces might cause cancer?
May have nicotine residues in it. You have pointed out it correctly. May have residues in it.
Well, that doesn't make sense based on their claims.
Yes.
That's not right. So, since they use all these things, and you have pointed it out that for the regular produces, both vegetables, fruits, grains and everything, there is a ruling body that will check for the residues, for chemical residues in those produces. Are there any organization that will check for residues in these so-called organic produces?
Yes. In the certified organic program of the country called NPOP, National Program for Organic Production, EPIDA, Agricultural and Processed Food Authority, EPIDA is there. EPIDA will be employing different type of certifiers who will be examining the farm and see that they are abiding to the rules of the game. So that is there. But of late, the USDA certified organic has found that many produce which was exported as organic material, they have found it is substandard. It is not complying to the standard. And the USDA has returned those products. Recently only, I have the data with me, and said that USDA will not, now onwards, USDA will not allow Indian certifiers and other certifiers working in India for certifying a product to be exported to USA. They won't allow it. But USDA will send their own certifiers to India for making it. So they don't believe our certification program. That is the, recently it has come into the picture.
And all the activism that is going on here.
Yeah. All the activism. And even in the case of certified organic farming, this much of fraudulence can happen. Then what will be the other organic farming which they claim where there are no monitoring?
Right.
So I have found that this pesticide residue report has come. Last year and last to last year it has come. And to the amazing thing is that even from the organic outlets, certified organic outlets, that is run by an organization called Tunnel in Trivandrum, the samples were taken and found that that contained pesticides. That is true. So that is cheating the public. Though they say that it is free of all the pesticides, this contains pesticide residues. Then you can just think of how much it is.
Talking about organizations, we have lots of brands that are selling organic products. If we consider fruits and vegetables, there are a lot of business models that source vegetables and fruits from the local farmers, claiming that it's organic. But it still doesn't meet the demands of the population. But still, they do have a business model, what they claim to be viable. But considering the grains, pulses and all that, how do they manage the storage without using any pesticides or preservatives and ensure that there is a supply based on the demand?
The present technology is insufficient to make it organically protective. Because in the storage, in the godowns, large godowns of Food Corporation of India, warehousing corporations, where with bags and bags, tons and tons of pulses and grains, it can be protected by a gaseous chemical only, fumigant only. At present they use it aluminum phosphide. Aluminum phosphide is a chemical, and that way only it is protected. And also malathion, which is permitted, as well as different types of pyrethroid chemicals. So with chemical protection only, the grains are coming in the market. Pulses and grains are coming in the market after chemical protection only. But the science is looking for it. Carbon dioxide and nitrogen are being tried in other countries, and maybe in future that will come into us also, our country also. But at present, it is not organically protected in the godowns. It is chemically protected only.
So, in the organic brands that we have in our country, that's not followed, is what you are saying?
Most probably it may not be followed, because that technology is not available in the country at present.
So, in many ways, you have proved that organic farming is not a viable solution for food security for a larger population. And Sri Lanka is one of the examples that we have right now. But people who support organic farming say that it was a corporate conspiracy and also lack of planning, proper planning. And to support their argument, they quote the example of Sikkim as a state and also as a country, Cuba. Are they really a self-sustainable examples that we can replicate?
Never. because in Cuba there was 60% reduction in the production of grains. 60% reduction. Now Sikkim is getting food grains from West Bengal, Bihar and other states. All sort of food grains, wheat, rice and all. Basically these things they are getting from outside and they are producing vegetables by organic means. So is that a replicable model? I don't think. Because, and also the productivity of Sikkim and Punjab, if you compare, there is 5 times difference. The productivity of wheat in Punjab is around 5,000 kilograms and that of Sikkim is around 1,000 kilograms, around that. So how can it be remunerative for a farmer? At a farmer level, if you look at a farmer who has to pay his daughter's fees, who has to construct a house, who has requirement for many things, he has to make income, no? So for income, one has to have production. So production means organic production will be around just 1/5 what is happening in Sikkim. Very, very, very less.
So let me say this. There is a huge belief around the public that organic food is very safe. And let me give you a thought experiment. A huge farm, hectares, multiple hectare big farm, and they do complete organic farming, wherein they use only organic manures, no pesticides are used, and they produce big batches of let's say vegetables or fruits. Are they really safe for human consumption?
Yeah, that is another question. When we use organic manures for production of vegetables especially, there is every chance that salmonella infection will be there. It happened previously also. Salmonella is a very deadly organism that can cause poisoning. So it happened previously. Usually what the present certification program says that you cannot apply organic, especially cow dung and such organic material over the crops.
Right.
As a foliar application, it cannot be done, and there should be 60 days gap between application and harvest. Yeah. So that is not safe, even if it is in organic. One has to follow it very carefully.
It's quite interesting that why these kind of news doesn't really catch the media attention.
Yeah, such things, such limitations are there for organic also. We say neem-based pesticides are very safe, but neem-based pesticides will be killing honeybees. It's killing honeybees. So, but many of the newer pesticides, chlorantraniliprole, flubendiamide, and such chemicals will not be killing bees. But that is not permitted in organic farming. But azadirachtin is permitted in organic farming. Even some of the chemicals which we use, the toxicity is far less than paracetamol. Paracetamol is more toxic compared to many of the pesticides used at present. So newer class of pesticides are so safe and very less quantity is sufficient. But we have to use it very carefully and according to pest management principles.
Right.
I am not saying that it can be used indiscriminately. It is not so. As a last resort only, and that with all precautions. Because these are very precious molecules. We have to use them for a longer period.
Yes. Okay. So one of the main idea that everybody has in their mind is how food is equivalent to their health. But what everybody forgets is how food security is equivalent to national security.
Yes.
And how modern farming is ensuring that national security. What is your say on that?
Yeah, because it's again a very good question. Our nation, which experienced lot of famine and starvation, death of millions of people, throughout its history. And large-scale famine was Calcutta famine, that is Bengal famine, that happened in 1942-45 period, killing 30 to 40 lakh persons. So, and then after the independence, we had lot of hope for increasing food production immediately, but it didn't happen. Such miracles cannot happen in agriculture. Miracles cannot happen. And then India was begging with a bowl into different countries for getting some wheat and rice, and our existence was said to be from ship to mouth. From a ship is coming at the coast, and wheat is imported, and that is eaten. And that was how we survived for years together. And Pandit Ji went to different countries for begging this wheat and rice. And there was a cartoon by cartoonist Shankar saying that, stating that, drawing that, at the front of the palace, Pandit Ji and the president will be writing accord, very serious thing. And at the back of the palace, Pandit Ji will be showing the gunny bag, and the president will be putting the wheat. With a bowed head, he will be doing it like this. It was drawn by cartoonist Shankar. So at that time, there was an agreement to get wheat from USA. PL 480, Public Law 480. Under that, we had to devalue our rupee. Our rupee was almost equal to US dollar, and we had to devalue to a great extent. Then only they will give us wheat. So we had devalued our rupee. And another agreement was that whatever be the developmental and research projects running on India, we are planning as well as running in India. Say a scientific research program in IISc Bangalore, or a barrage or a dam is being built in Ganga. All that should be reported to USA. Yeah. Then only they will give us wheat. So that way the country's security was hypothecated to USA, I would say. So from that place, now we have reached a place where we are exporting. We are second in the world in terms of agricultural production. We are second in the world. And that the muscles, now we have muscles. Now we can sign accord with any country with equal status. Our muscles are strong. They won't crush our hand. Our muscles are strong. So that way, food security is equivalent to national security.
Yes.
When food security is not there, there is no national security.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I would like to highlight one more thing. When there was the war, Russia waged war against Ukraine, one of the highlights that President of Ukraine said in the media was that we have so many months of surplus of food. And that really explains a lot of things. And in India, we have around 4 years of surplus food. And if we have any kind of issue in our country, that food is going to feed our mouth for next 4 years. And organic farming or any other kind of alternate farming is not going to help such a thing. So integrated farming or organic farming is the security for our nation. Thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us.
With regard to organic farming, I would say one more thing. If the entire country is turned to organic farming, then what will happen? Then we have to grow more cattle. When more cattle is grown, there will be more of methane, more of nitrous oxide. Then that will have more greenhouse. There are greenhouse gases. So more of cattle means more of greenhouse gases. Then climate change will be more severe. So we cannot depend on organic farming for food security and even for climate change. We cannot have it. So
very true, very true.
So thank you very much for organizing such an event in Bangalore, so that we can clarify many of the things. Your questions were very good, and I think the audience is satisfied with the answers. So once again, thank you, Bangalore, esSENSE Bangalore. Thank you.
Thank you.